Good evening. Welcome to the Bowlers Gazette. We have a special show tonight. We have a special guest. Rita Justice is here with us tonight. She was just inducted into the Delaware Sports Hall of Fame just about 2 weeks ago. Rita, tell us about your bowling career from when you first got started into bowling.
Well, as you know, Gary, it came out as a cute story. A lot of people did not know how I started in bowling, and it was pretty much by accident. I went out with a group of girls from Beneficial and did not know bowling. So I didn't start until I was like 20, and that is late for starting, especially into professional career. It showed that I had some athletic prowess, and some wonderful people worked with me along the way. I became a professional member of the Professional Association in about 3 years, and then went on through a period of off and on for 10 years and attained some national and international recognition.
Tell us about your national recognition, which tournaments you came in.
National, I have one professional title, which I gained in Rockford, Illinois, and I was a constant in the top 10, top 5 of every tournament I competed, outside of 2 in my entire career. So I was high up in the money winnings, but I only won one title.
That was on the national level. Now, yes. On the international level, you did quite well.
International level was really an honor and almost a dream come true. Number one, I always say to people, never say never, because I would never have believed if someone told me I would be competing abroad or competing as a national athlete. But I did, and I had the privilege of being in Tokyo 3 years, three times, 71, 72, and 73. And in 72, I won the Japan Pearl Cup competition and also the World Cup competition.
Explain to our listeners how that tournament is run, how you get into it, and
in
so
the
forth.
Pearl Cup competition, there are 8 spots. 4 are chosen by the invitors, the sponsors of Japan, and 4 are gained on a point basis. The first year I was invited because they felt I was a rising star, and then in 72 I went back on the point basis. I gained one of the 4 spots and also won the titles. So then in 73 I was invited back as the reigning champion.
Give us some insight on as to your experiences in Japan.
It's a marvelous experience to learn the culture, to learn the ways of life of other people. It makes you more compassionate, and I've always said it's easy to communicate because we all smile in the same language. So there isn't a difficulty traveling around, and we were hosted as though we were really royalty. And we traveled the entire country, which is a landmass about the size of the state of California.
During the TV taping that they had, how did you feel with the whole audience in the background that basically maybe didn't understand the game that well, didn't understand English, and you're out there competing, not understanding what they're saying in the background? How did that, how'd you react to that?
In the heat of competition, you're totally oblivious to what's going on around you. They do understand bowling, the scoring. It is the most popular sport in Japan. Interestingly enough, they never organized into leagues at any level because there was a law against gambling. And anytime you're paying and waging, then that's gambling. But the people were very considerate. Even if you perform poorly, you would hear a like a hiss. They're very generous with their applause, but they expected you to conduct yourself and perform as a professional, and that meant you made very few mistakes.
That must have been quite an experience to have a chance to do something like that.
It was, as I said, and also the women of Japan were ranked above the men professionals in Japan. The one ranking #1 bowler there was Kyoka Suda. She had a chauffeur. She had a gentleman who carried all her bowling equipment, placed it on the lanes, and all she did was put on her shoes to perform. They're very dedicated, great, tremendous concentration, and although they do not have the physical part of bowling as we do, we use a lot of our upper body strength to bowl. They are more precision, precise, and deadly accurate.
All right, we'll be right back. We're going to show you right now some video of Rita Justice in the Pearl Cup, and we'll be back after that.
Okay. This is the finals in the second match before the final championship match. I must defeat Vesma Grensfell from California at this point, and it's a strike. So you can see there's a little tension building. That's Vesma Grensfell from California. This is the pressure-packed moment, the do-or-die situation. It looks on target, and it's a strike, and I knew I had won the match. So now I'm in position to go into the final competition, and my opponent will be Judy Sutar, who also was my roommate, but and good dear friend. But when you're on the lanes competing, you put friendship aside. You're there to do your best and hope they do their best. The smile of victory. One thing you realize when you're on the lanes, there is no defense. You're in control of what you're doing and not what anyone else is doing. So you want to concentrate, dedicate yourself to what you're capable of doing, the job you have to do at that time. And as you can see, my concentration is very intense. I need another double, and here it comes. Now, if I just stay clean, spare out the remaining frames, I know that I have won this title. This is the 10th frame, and I must mark. Ball looks good, and my old buddy, the 10-pin, stood. Now I must spare and throw a fill ball, and I phase out at 236, and the most Judy can do at this point is 202. So I know I have won the title. I would like to remember what was going through my mind at this point, but I forget. I'm just sure it was God give me the ability to keep it across the line. And a 7-pin. But as you can see, now the match is over, and we're still friends. The true mark of the professionals and true sportsmen is as they come around, they've all tried, give their best, and they're very happy for each other. So there's a great camaraderie, and as I said, good sportsmanship is so important.
Rita Justice! おめでとうございます。第2位、ジュディ・クック選手。第3位、ベスマ・パールクラウンを三木本真嗣店の乙武取締役から渡していただくことにいたしましょう。次回400。
and is valued at approximately $300,000. It's all Mickey Moto pearls, 24 karat gold, and other jewels.
今はもう満面笑みでございます。おめでとうございました。続きまして日本ボーリングチェーンの宮川社長から優勝杯でございます。大きな優勝杯が渡されました。
That's the Japan Pearl Cup trophy, which I did get to bring home, and also a long strand of Mickey Moto pearls.
My heart is very full, and I thank all of you, especially Mr. Hariki and Mr. Miyakawa, for the honor of being in Japan and competing for the Japan Pearl Cup. It's the greatest honor of my bowling career. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Welcome back to our special edition of the Bowlers Gazette with our special guest, Rita Justice. We just talked about the Pearl Cup in Japan. Now let's get into something a little bit closer. Back when you came back from Japan, not too long after that, you got involved in the bowling business.
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
I thought it would be marvelous to be in a business that you love to compete and instruct in. And I had the opportunity to purchase First State Center, First State Lanes. And I found out that wasn't quite all true. Being in business and the financial status of that particular business was one that was going to require full time, and that meant about 15, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Due to an injury also, I came off the tour and committed myself to First State and turning it around. And today I'm very proud to say that it's a viable, very attractive, family-oriented center.
I think very few bowlers or people in general realize the fact that you had a 300 game, and your husband had a 300 game.
One of the few couples around the United States.
One of the few where both aren't pro bowlers.
That was true.
And he rolled his back in 63, I believe?
63, and I rolled mine in 73.
And that was at Bowlerama?
Bowlerama in the men's league.
Okay, well, talk about that a little bit.
Well, ironically, I had just returned from Japan and had not fared well because I had had some surgery on both feet and had not really gained the level of proficiency to compete. So coming home, and I was showing them pictures of one of the girls in Japan had shot a 300 game, and we visually had every frame on film, unaware that I was compiling consecutive strikes on the scoreboard. And I was bowling in the men's league, as I said, and about the 9th frame, I got up, and at that point I realized I had 8 strikes in a row. The 9th was difficult, but the 10th was near impossible. I felt as though the building was resting on my shoulders, and as you know, 74 lanes, there wasn't anyone moving but myself. And as one gentleman said, why did you hesitate? It looked like you were going to go and then you stopped. And I said, well, the worst thing that can happen is not to have your feet moving. And my feet felt like they were literally glued to the floor. And I wanted to make sure that I got my feet moving so I could synchronize my approach. The first 2 balls were good, and the third one, I just said a little prayer, please, dear God, let me hit the spot. And because I felt if I put the ball on target, it would do the rest. And but that was one of the hardest, most difficult performances I've ever had to compete in. Most pressure.
I would imagine that was probably worse than election night.
Close, very close.
Your children bowled in the junior programs, and in a few minutes we're going to show a short videotape of 2 of them. I can't find anything on the 3rd one. I know I have it somewhere. I can't find anything on Kim.
Oh.
We do have Kevin from our first tournament that we did with the Bowlers Gazette way back in 1980. And we have Kermit from 1980. And we don't have a shot of Ken, but she did rather well on the national level not too many years ago.
Yes, I had the pleasure of traveling with her to Denver, Colorado to participate in the Coca-Cola Youth Tournament, one of the greatest things that I think that have been developed for young people. And my daughter had the honor of winning second place and a $3,000 scholarship for college, which she utilized at the University of Delaware.
And if I'm not mistaken, we had 2 winners in Delaware that year that came in second.
Yes, we did.
A young fellow from Dover, Dan Flynn.
Yes, he did beautifully.
Boys handicap, and your daughter in the girls handicap.
Girls handicap.
And then, of course, the next year, Delaware did even better. Stephanie Merrick went out and came in first.
And won it.
So I think Delaware's been well represented in that tournament over the years.
It has, and you know, I think one of the things that if you have a dream that we'd love to see come true would be the schools utilizing bowling more. It is the most and best motor skill developer of all sports for young people. The coordination and the synchronization of walking, eye, hand, foot coordination is marvelous. And I'm still working, even though I'm in a different endeavor, that someday I would love to see that utilized in the schools.
All right, we'll be back with more from Rita Justice. Right now, a short clip on 2 of her children bowling from 1980, our very first tournament for juniors from the Bowlers Gazette. We'll be back after that.
And he's got a chance. Oh, he's going to hit a deuce here with anything at all. And oh my God, he blew that rack apart.
Again, that's the 3rd one.
He's very, very happy. He's going to stay on 4 and finish out.
Somebody's going to have to hold Rita down after this.
232 possibilities here.
She's going to be walking along about 3 feet above the floor.
I would imagine so. Well, she's a proud mom anyway, and she's got a lot more to be proud of now. Kermit is going to end up here with a cover with a 221, and that is scratch.
Super.
These young fellows were bowling scratch. Kermit Justice,
and he's 10
winning
years
the Bantam division at 10 years old, and he covers it. He gets a nice round of applause and a well-deserved round of applause. Scratch. He's getting a little excited there, I think. Comes over to look at his score.
He's in the 230s right now. He can go to 246.
Somebody's trying to tell him something. He takes a quick look back. But Kevin Justice is going to reign as our junior division champion here on the TV2 Junior Singles Classic from First 8 Lanes. Len Holmquist and Jules Falcone with the commentary, and here is Kevin. And well, I thought he was going to get a
still mighty big
sliding break.
235 with
mighty big game. Kevin is walking away now with our championship. We're going to take a final look at Debbie Quisenberry and let her.
You know, I can't.
We're back with our special guest, Rita Justice, recently inducted into the Delaware State Hall of Fame for sports. Give us some insight into your induction.
Well, evidently you have to have been retired for 5 years out of competition, and Pat Muscanti was one of the originators of suggesting that my name be placed in nomination for the State Sports Hall of Fame. George Frick, who is very active in the Hall of Fame Association, has followed my career pretty much because he worked with the General Assembly in Dover, and he, I guess a great sports enthusiast, was also aware of my achievements abroad, and he suggested that they should be looking in the area of bowling for someone to put in. I also am very proud because I understand there's very few women that reside in the Hall of Fame, but they have a board and they review your credentials and accomplishments. Then they proceed to make up a ballot of about 8 or 10. This ballot, once that they have decided on the selections, are sent out to about 140 people throughout the community, sports writers and newspapers, and then they vote. and then the balloting is counted, and then you're notified whether or not you've been accepted. And I want to say that I think the greatest acknowledgement that any athlete can receive is by your home state, your peers, the people who feel that you have made a contribution. Winning is end result of competition, of which you work, commit yourself physically and mentally to be prepared for. But the greatest thrill of all was always coming home and sharing it with other people. Many wonderful memories.
Besides being a bowler, you're also, as we know, into politics. I won't say a politician because people don't particularly care for that term sometimes. A couple weeks ago I read in the paper that your political career started in 1982 when you won the Register of Wills. But actually that's not quite true. Your career in politics started long before that.
Well, it started in 1970, really, with Governor DuPont and the current governor, Mike Castle, and also one Rita Justice, who was running for the House of Representatives. The highlight of being in the background was in 1972, I came home from Japan, and the telephone rang, and when I answered it, they asked if I was Rita Justice, and I said yes, and they said, "Would you hold on, please? The President of the United States would like to talk to you." Excuse me. And it was Richard Nixon, and he asked me if I would serve on the athletes for the re-election of the President Committee. And I did. So I've been in the background a lot and never aspired or thought I would be a candidate actually for elective office. As you know, I did run, and the Register of Wills was a challenge. I modernized a lot of practices and procedures in that office, which I think have been beneficial to the people today. And then I ran for county executive in '84, and now running for re-election in '88.
All right. You did have one other election that you were defeated in,
yes.
your very first one. You ran for state treasurer against then state treasurer Tom Carper.
Right.
And it was a good campaign, as I remember.
Well, you know, this is the nice thing, Gary. People today in politics, you hear so much slurs and smearing of their opponent. My first encounter with Tom, we both got up and said why we felt that we should be respectively elected. And I could easily say the night that I found out that he had won, which I knew before because there wasn't any reason for people to vote against Tom Carper. And I would have people say to me, "Rita, I hope you run again because I would love to support you, but I have no reason to vote against Tom Carper." And we're friends today. So politics doesn't have to be dirty, and it doesn't have to be the mudslinging. And I would encourage anyone who would like to get involved, get up, talk about the issues, why you feel that you're the qualified candidate, and not getting into the mudslinging and the political rhetoric. People see through that, and they don't wish to hear it.
All right. With your campaign coming up, you've got a good candidate against you this time. Should be a very interesting campaign.
I think it will be. He has ran statewide before, and so he certainly has name exposure. But I'm running on my record. I feel that in 4 years of county government, my administration has made significant strides, positive for the people, and we're bringing in a comprehensive development plan. We have been working very closely on changing the financial makeup, bringing in modern practices, and I think it's positive, and I think it will merit re-election.
Going way back, just for a moment, to 1980, when we started the Bowlers Gazette together, do you feel that having been involved in that from the beginning when you first got on camera, do you think that has helped in your campaigns?
Oh, I think everything has definitely helped. The experience from the private world, knowing what it means to climb a career ladder, being a female out there alone, being an athlete, you learn discipline, teamwork, commitment, The same thing with the business, the financial end, meeting a payroll, being with you, sharing the Bowlers Gazette, certainly gave me an experience and exposure to the communications world that I hadn't had before. So I think everything molds you to the person you are today.
All right, we'll be back. After these words, we'd like to thank Rita Justice for stopping by and giving us her feelings, and we would certainly like to congratulate you on your induction into the Hall of Fame, the very first bowler.
Thank you.
To be inducted into that. It's a great honor for you. It's a great honor for bowling.